This is Don't Panic, episode number 355, recorded January 23rd, 2023. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Don't Panic, the technology podcast on gadgets, the internet, and you. I'm Sean Jennings, joined as always by two guys who I think are like ambling across the Old West. I'm not quite sure what this soundtrack is, but it's a classical evening. Colby Rabideau, Dan Miller. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello, Sean.
It's that like Ken Burns documentary music where you read like the Civil War letter. That's kind of what I'm thinking of. My dearest Beatrice.
My dearest Sean.
Yeah.
It's been so long since we last spoke.
My loins ache for your arrival. No, I'm sorry. I was watching a different Ken Burns documentary. Ken Burns After Dark.
I don't think I've ever watched a Ken Burns documentary.
It's a lot. I will say
Yeah,
that.
I don't think I have.
It is excellent sleeping material.
Yes.
And I don't mean that pejoratively. I've come to appreciate things that can put me to sleep because I have a hard time going to sleep sometimes. Actually, maybe I will pick my current going to sleep podcast. That's a good idea. But yeah, Ken Burns documentaries, that was a good couple months of material for me. And here's the thing. You feel like you get way more enjoyment out of it, or at least I feel that way, because say it's a 1 hour episode. I'm going to watch that 1 hour episode 4 or 5 times before I actually have seen the whole thing.
Yep. They're good for airplanes, I find, because there's nowhere else to go. You kind of have to watch them if you bring them.
Also, they are good. Like that's
they're
the thing.
Wonderful. They're so well made, but the pace is glacial.
But yeah, the first 20 minutes, I'm like, wow, this is so interesting. I didn't know this about the Brooklyn Bridge, and then I'm asleep.
Yeah.
I think the Brooklyn Bridge one is my favorite because it was shockingly. It's actually a shorter one. I think it's less than 4 hours. And shockingly interesting. I did not know the kinds of shit they did to build the Brooklyn Bridge. It's really impressive.
They built that a long time ago, right? Like it's not new.
Yes.
Which makes it more impressive.
Yes. And thousands of Bothans died to bring you this bridge, to make a Star Wars reference.
Those are back when you see those old-timey photos of like children on the 100th story lifting steel beams.
Yeah, and then the other wild thing was this construction project, I think, was where they discovered the bends like you hear about in scuba diving when you experience too much pressure change. And people, I forget, they died gruesome deaths from just like walking out of the tunnel under the river too quickly. And they just churned them. They're like, well, there's more where that came from. Next. Down you go. It's crazy.
It seems fine.
Oh, and then right, I think that's the other thing. The guy who designed the bridge was working on its construction, and then he was injured, like mortally wounded by the bends, and he then bought an apartment in Brooklyn and directed the rest of the construction from his bedroom because he couldn't leave, he couldn't move, until he died.
Oh, you're muted, buddy.
How long did he live for?
Several years, I think. It took many years to build it because they had to build a tunnel underneath the river in order to build the thingies in the ground that would support the bridge, and then they had to build the bridge over those things.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. Totally insane.
That was back when they used to build things. Now everything's just computers.
We used to build
in this country.
We used to sit on rocks.
The only Ken Burns documentary I finished like an idiot was the one on the Roosevelts, which was fine.
God, how many are there?
He's done like a lot. Like too many, if I'm being. He pumps out one every couple of years, like a lot. There's baseball, there's jazz, there's Civil War.
I've heard the
there's
baseball one is
parks.
good. I haven't seen it though.
The jazz one is supposed to be very good.
I saw the jazz one. And
Have
I
you
feel like
ever-
his most famous is the Civil War and the World War II one, or was it World War One? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Do you know what Ken Burns looks like?
Yeah, isn't he very George Lucas?
Maybe he's got to be. He either dyes his hair or
Oh,
he's
not-
wearing like a toupee or something. It just like his hair does not look like it goes with his body.
He
at
looks
all.
like he was in a popular. He looks like he was in a band that was popular for soft rock back in very like a Kenny Loggins esque.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah, it's a look.
I think I started watching the Vietnam War one. And I'm sure I watched some hours of that.
Yeah, that was one of the more recent ones, I think.
Mhm.
Right. Right. I remember when it was the buzz. Wild.
But anywho, what's good, my guys? What's going on?
Just hanging out.
Cricket's true. I just saw Colby this weekend in person, which was a treat. Ooh,
Yep.
It was a treat.
Spent an evening at Sean's house with friend of the show, Phil.
I thought you were gonna say friend of the show, Charles, but
Oh, frenemy of the show, Charles. Friend of the show, Phil. Chief antagonist of the show, Sean's cat, Charles.
that's right. That's right.
It was great. Sean got us bagels from a local bagel place, and they were pretty good.
They were best local bagels, and I made nachos for the first time,
Ooh.
which is
nacho.
not hard at all.
Yeah, it turns
It's
out.
just chips and a bunch of stuff on the chips.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was all. That's my refrigerator broke.
Oh, that's right.
Right. I feel like there's a joke in there, like, "Hey, like knock knock, who's there? Is your
Is it-
refrigerator running?" No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Thanks for rubbing it in.
There you go. We got there. Yeah, so it on Friday it was kind of making a funny noise. And then on Saturday we woke up and I didn't notice anything at first, but then like later in the day I opened it, I was like, "Huh, it doesn't seem very cold in here." And I put a thermometer in and it was like 60 degrees. I was like, that's just slightly colder than my apartment, which is pretty cold right now for reasons I can't explain. But yeah, 60 degrees, not what you want. So that was a shame. And then we went to Sean's because that's what was happening on Saturday.
So he could bring everything to my fridge. You know, I was the next nearest fridge he had. So
in hindsight, we really should have like offloaded some frozen meats into your freezer or something, because many meats were lost in the fridge apocalypse of January 2023. But we did. So on the way home, we stopped at Target and purchased a miniature fridge to hold us over until a new fridge can be purchased. Which was clutch, because today we went to the fridge store and it's going to be like 3 weeks before our fridge comes. So,
Talk to me about shopping for a fridge.
because can you fit a full size regular fridge in your place, or is it a small
Mhm.
fridge?
no. So
Do you need to
one-
prepare the way?
So interestingly, the fridge place that we go to, the appliance store that I purchased when my
You're
dishwasher
being
broke-
very vague. So this is not Best Buy or something. This is like
It's
a
Crazy Eddie's.
it's called Yale Appliance. I don't know.
Okay.
how-
Wow, that's controversial in Boston. Jeez.
I know, right?
He couldn't get into Harvard appliance.
Crushed it. Yeah, no, it's just like they just do appliances. Um and I so this was the place where when my dishwasher broke and I waited for like 2.5 months for Home Depot to allegedly deliver a dishwasher, and they just never did. And then Sean was like, oh, that's what they do. You have to go to appliance stores and like look at things that say they're in stock and purchase that. This was the place where I found a dishwasher that would fit in my dishwasher hole in stock. And I don't know, they delivered the dishwasher. After I did that, I had the dishwasher within 24 hours,
Mm-hmm.
which was super annoying. But so we like went to their appliance showroom, which is like a huge. It was in Dorchester, so it was like a little bit down the highway from here, but still in Boston. But it's in this big like old warehouse, and it's just a huge room filled with like there's a refrigerator room that has 100 refrigerators in it, and there's an oven room that has 100 ovens in it. And like the refrigerators range from like $7.99 to like $12,000. It's a really interesting progression to follow. But because of our size and like refrigerator hole constraints, there are like 4 refrigerators in the entire world that we could purchase. So it made the selection process pretty easy because there were no options. So that was good. But yeah, so we talked to the person. They were like, okay, well, we'll get that scheduled for you, and it'll probably take 2 or 3 weeks. And speaking of, Dan, you mentioned preparing the way, which is something, it's like possibly the most stressful part about getting a large appliance delivered to your 5th floor walk up, or your 5th floor apartment where the elevator door is too small for the appliance to fit through. This appliance store will send a person, in the 3 weeks that they're waiting for your thing to come, they'll send a person to just like measure all the doors and make sure it's going to fit.
Wow.
So that's like they send a guy who is the way preparer, which is awesome. Yeah. So he's coming on Monday next week. And then I don't know, I guess I'll measure the doors and walk up the stairs and tell us if in fact this refrigerator will be coming, whether or not the way is prepared.
Now, was the selection so limited as to have no real choices about your refrigerator, or were you in a position to reconsider what features you value in a refrigerator?
So there were some choices, but mostly it's limited by like the physical space. Like we have like the refrigerator we have is 27.5 inches wide, and it is like jammed into the hole, like it scrapes the plaster on the walls when you push it in. So absolutely nothing bigger than that is an option. And so like there are a couple of refrigerators that are that exact same size. And then there are refrigerators that are a lot smaller that are like 24 inches wide, which is like pretty small. And then there's like the one we got is 25 inches wide, which is the only one that exists as far as we can tell that is that size. But like feature wise, they're almost exclusively like freezer on the bottom, like weird European refrigerators.
No Wi-Fi touchscreen AI cameras. You can look at an app and it'll tell you whether your milk's gone bad. None of that.
I didn't even think to ask if it had Wi-Fi.
Now,
no.
did you interrogate yourself as to whether you're a French door kind of guy or not, or does that also not fit in the physical constraints?
Not an option. No French doors. Yeah, they don't make French doors that small. I looked.
Okay, interesting.
We thought about maybe trying to put the refrigerator in a different place to open more to broaden our options, our the horizon of options that were
That's a
available to
big
us.
tile to move in the slide tile puzzle, preparing the way. And think
That's-
about how many
it's-
other tiles you'd have to move when you try to move that one. Whew.
It's fascinating that your mind goes to slide tile puzzles because that is exactly what I
Yes.
exactly the metaphor that that came up in conversation.
Yes, so much of adult life, like in this case, it manifests itself physically, but even, abstractly and financially, so much of adult life is what do I have to do in order to do the thing I want to do? It feels like when we were younger, you just thought of the thing you want to do and you did that thing.
Right. Now there's logistics.
Yes.
Yeah. So, moral of the story is there is a new fridge coming and they know that they're going to have to walk up the stairs. And we paid a little extra because they have to walk up the stairs, which is fine. But they're going to take the old refrigerator away.
That's pretty good. Do they just
So-
sort of push it out the window?
I don't care, frankly.
I think the people on the sidewalk might.
Right. I feel like they probably won't because I think they can explode or at least leak, noxious gas. They have a lot of explosive, flammable warnings on the back if you ever pull your refrigerator out.
Or keep it as an emergency nuclear fallout shelter, like in the Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah,
Perfect.
is your fridge lead lined?
It'll be his and hers.
Escape pods, if you will.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, there's no room for that. I guess I could put it in the closet. Just have a closet filled with old refrigerators.
And then you
Spent-
put your
spent
clothes-
carcasses.
Put your clothes in the old refrigerators.
That's smart, Sean.
Crazy unnecessary. It's climate controlled for your climate It's like a
It's
cedar
not climate
closet.
controlled
You won't have any
anymore.
moth problems. Yeah.
That's true. Airtight.
Crisp and fresh.
I like
Did we talk on the show about my dishwasher breaking?
No.
It was just the home improvement
No.
show. I just bought it in September, so it's very new. And the motor burned out. The pump motor, because I got an FTD error. Can you guess what an FTD error is?
Fix the dishwasher.
That's a good one, but no.
Mm-mm. Failed to dump.
Oh, you were right there. You were right there. Failure to drain. There was a
Drain.
bunch of water sitting in there.
Right.
Because the pump burned out, but it was under warranty. So the fine folks at the General Electric sent a very capable handyman. He came, took it apart, put in a new motor, said it's under warranty, won't cost you anything, and he left. It was probably the most pleasant repair experience I've ever had, other than not having a dishwasher for 2 weeks.
That's cool. Did it take 2 weeks?
Well, it broke 2 days before Christmas. So between Christmas and New Year's, getting someone to come out was an issue. So it was just more of a scheduling thing than anything else, but they were relatively efficient. They had an online tracker so I could figure out when he's coming. He came when he was supposed to, and all in all, it was easy. And it was just he happened to have an extra motor, popped it in, and no real issue since.
That's awesome.
A rare win for the customer.
A rare win.
I am not going to get used to it.
Yeah. Don't expect that.
Never. Anything else of note, gentlemen? Should we pivot on over to picks?
Technological
Or not picks. We got to do the news.
I
We
was
got
gonna say,
to
wow, did we really
I-
spend the whole show talking about dishwashers?
Yeah, that's it, guys. We're wrapping it up. We've gone on too long. The people have had enough. No, we got to do the picks. The news. We got to do the news. It's the part of the show where we talk about the news. And there is some news here in the rundown from the last 2 weeks. A bunch of mixed stories, some new product announcement, some outrages, some product news, some interesting, weird news, guys? Anything here in the rundown jumping out at you as something we should be talking about on the program tonight?
I think we should talk about the Apple headset.
Let's do it. Yeah, probably our most detailed leak yet. Hit the news wire this week. Bloomberg's Mark Gurman on the leak here. Let me go through some of the specs for you. We can talk about it. Supposedly coming in the coming months, certainly before WWDC. The product rumored right now to be called Reality Pro, standalone device. These are kind of in a crazy order in this article, but I'll just read what they say. It'll have an interface similar to that of an iPhone and an iPad with the option to pin widgets to the home screen. Alternatively, it may be used as an external display for a connected Mac. Along with voice commands, there'll be the option to use a Mac, iPhone, or iPad keyboard to enter text on the so-called XROS operating system. There's going to be health tracking, third-party apps, reality video. Virtual reality video is said to be a focus. Holding talks with Disney, Dolby, and others for VR content, so you can watch it in virtual screens and virtual environments, and wearing AirPods to support spatial audio. Hand and eye tracking. It's believed that the device will have sensors that can follow the wearer's eyes and several external cameras that can monitor hand movements. The idea is that users will be able to select an item, such as an app icon or a button, by looking at it, then squeezing their thumb and index finger to carry out the action. If this works, you wouldn't need hand controllers like you would on other types of headsets. Let's see here. It's expected to support both virtual reality and augmented reality with the ability to switch between them using a watch-like digital crown on the side of the device. It'll support prescription eyewear. One other interesting leak that was sort of new here is one-on-one FaceTime calls. They believe for one-on-one chats where both participants are using the headsets, FaceTime will render realistic versions of their face and body, not just cartoony avatars, but actually a thing that looks like your face using the cameras and other equipment. It'll be made of nice materials. The battery will be in an external pack that connects to the headset via a cable and placed in your pocket. It's expected that it will retail for around $3,000. Guys, what do we think of that? Anything in there jumping out to you?
I can't decide if it'd be cool or insane if you could just look at things and select them.
I will say, I have found the hand controllers an annoying part of VR when I have used it. Like, that to me, if you could change anything about existing VR headsets, that's a noticeable big one. And in the few hand tracking apps I've used on like the Meta Quest, it when it works, it's pretty cool.
Sure.
And even that, you still have to kind of do it with your hands. If you can do it with your eyeballs and just go click, 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 like that's wild.
It sounds cool. It's hard to imagine what that would even be like just looking at something. Because that wouldn't be like, you wouldn't have to turn your head, it sounds like, right? It's like just your eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
Weird. Wild.
Yeah, I find all of this smoke around this Apple product and everyone being so specific about the battery pack, I find that super odd. I think that's a pretty big downside. However, Sean, if I could change one thing about the existing VR headsets, it would just be that they'd be easier to put on and use.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the main reason why I don't use mine less, aside from the fact that there's not much to do with it, but like I still haven't beaten that Half-Life game, which is a lot of fun and is really, really, really cool. But the idea is like, okay, take out the headset, connect it to the computer. That's going to take it's super finicky. You got to get the special USB-C cable out. It's got to be exactly the right kind of USB-C cable. Plug it in. Like, that's super annoying. And then like just having it on is a little annoying. So if it was lighter and if it had like an AirPods like experience where you can just pick up your headset and it just connects to all of your stuff instantly,
Sure.
That could be pretty compelling. I just have a hard time imagining it being so compelling that they're going to release it with the like Chewbacca bandolier battery pack thing.
Yeah, it's one of those weird, like they're kind of conflicting forces because you're right. I think the idea, you're right. It is you're in it or you're not. And what I'm so interested at this digital crown idea, which would lend me to think you would wear it more often, where you could just spin it and be out of the full VR experience and back in your world. You don't even have to take the headset off, and you're flipping between the two theoretically seamlessly. And I'm like, that's really smart. But then I realize they say it's going to have 2 hours of battery life. That's kind of a bummer. And maybe that's why you have battery packs, because you have 8 of them sitting charged on your counter and you swap in a new one. But
Yeah.
those things are kind of opposed in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And maybe
that's
if you were at your desk, you could just keep it plugged in and you wouldn't need to do that.
Right.
But still, people don't use the VR headsets at their desk typically. Like that's not a use case that anyone uses outside of Facebook's dwindling workforce.
Yes, and HoloLens commercials.
Well, RIP. Oh, we don't even have that on here.
No, it didn't make the cut, unfortunately.
HoloLens is dead.
Reportedly.
Yeah, there was a lot of blank is dead due to layoffs stories that I didn't get into, including a lot of stuff at Google and Microsoft and other Facebook, other tech companies.
Right. Oh, sad.
I mean, I know we all have our HoloLens. We love it. We use it all the time. It's going to be a tough loss, I know.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I saw a story today about, I think it was a story about the HoloLens thing getting canceled. And the analogy being drawn was, remember, and I only remember these details because I just read the article. In 2007, the original Microsoft Surface, which had nothing to do with what we now call the Microsoft Surface, the giant table that you could put things on and interact with, and it was a huge touchscreen. And this was it may have been pre-iPhone or maybe just post-iPhone. And like I still think that idea is really, really cool. And you see it a little bit like the current Surface that you can like, draw on. It's like a big drafting table style thing. And you see it a little bit with the Google, what do they call that thing? They're like video conferencing TV, basically. But I always thought that would be a really interesting platform. And the touch stuff was super cool, but Microsoft canceled it after a couple months. So the analogy was like, is Microsoft just, getting too skittish and canceling this project when it could, they're actually at the forefront of this thing, or is it all BS and we'll try VR again in 10 years again? I don't know.
Well, it's one of those funny things where, these companies don't want small hits. They don't want niche products. They don't want things that make a little money. What is Microsoft? Like 14 individual $1 billion businesses or something like that's the statistic. I don't think they want. I think they'd sell Surface tables. Would they sell enough to rival Xbox or Office or one of their other gazillion dollar Azure or whatever? No, I don't. I think it's true of a lot of products that are successful but small don't tend to have a long lifespan. I was shocked. Later in the rundown, we'll talk about the big HomePod coming back, which I was pretty surprised Apple did that. Because it didn't seem to be particularly successful the first time around.
It's interesting, you say Microsoft doesn't want any small products. And I Googled list of Microsoft products. There's actually a Microsoft.com page with a list of all of their products. There's Cortana. I don't think that's $1 billion business.
They discontinued that though.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. So these are not necessarily active products.
No.
Microsoft Family, Microsoft Forms, Kaizala. What the heck is Kaizala?
This is
Microsoft
Delve?
Family. Never heard of Microsoft Family. Connect and coordinate with people both inside and outside your organization with Microsoft Kaizala, the secure mobile and messaging task app. Super weird. Planner, PowerPoint, Skype. I guess Skype is probably $1 billion business. Yammer,
Forgot they owned
their social network for companies, still kicking apparently.
Yeah. Wow.
So I'm trying to see if I can find an updated.
Oh my God, there's Microsoft.fandom.com.
That must be sad.
Has a cool banner at the top. It's pretty stylish. Bing. Fun times. And this is great radio. It's just reading
Just us
Microsoft
Googling stuff.
products.
I mean, that's
names,
kind of
yeah.
what a lot of podcasts are. I can't
Yeah.
really, we
Keyboard
can't take
command.
credit for that. I'm trying to find a list of the billion-dollar businesses
Oops.
in Microsoft, but all these articles are from like 2013, which is not helpful. Dang, if I can find it, it's a very interesting list, but I'm never going to be able to find it. Well, here's an article from 2013 of their billion-dollar businesses, if anyone cares. Windows, Surface, that's a hardware, Windows Server, Windows Azure, Office, Xbox, System Center, SharePoint, Visual Studio, Dynamics, online advertising, Office 365, enterprise services, enterprise communications business, which is like Teams, client access license suites. All of these make more than $1 billion a year.
What was that fourth one? It was like Windows System Service or something?
System Center,
System Center.
including Windows Intune. Again, this is from 2013. I don't even know if these are still thing. It's
yeah, sure enough.
endpoint management
It's
solutions.
now called the Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager.
Ooh, memorable.
Wow.
Fascinating. Okie doke.
I will say I've been thinking about while we talked about Microsoft, and it was boring.
Thanks.
Just kidding. I was thinking about the Apple thing, and I think if this thing did nothing else besides do like a super screen thing where like you could wear this and have like Dan, there was an app you recommended you tried at some point for the the Quest that did something like this where it was like extra, VR screens for your computer. Like I think if this thing did that but like worked well and maybe you could use it for more than 2 hours or at a time or something like easily, I think I would try it
At $3,000.
well honestly. Like I have to I'm almost at the point, like at some point this cinema display that I've been using for 11 years is gonna die, so I'm gonna have to get a new monitor.
Oh, Colby takes the Reality Pro challenge.
Right. Like maybe, it's not that big a leap from like $3,000 is less expensive than the really fancy display. Slightly more expensive than the studio one. So like maybe this is the
That
move.
and you'd save a lot of space in your apartment. You could keep that fridge then.
Exactly. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe
Something to think
maybe I'll
about.
take the reality challenge. When's it supposed to launch?
And then they usually they'll do like a March event would be my guess before WWDC, but nobody knows. Rumors.
Yeah, we'll see.
Ooh, rumor has it. Ooh. All right, what else in here, gentlemen? Let's crank up the news machine.
Oh, HomePod. I was muted. Sorry.
HomePod. We're on an Apple kick. The HomePod is back, and it's the same as ever. Apple discontinued the original HomePod back in 2021, focusing on the mini version. Well, they've resurrected it with a few updates. The design is basically the same as the original, but it's got a retooled audio that's more and better and richer and stunning. I'm not going to get all the details, but it's got a few more audio things in it, a better chip, still does spatial audio, still does multi-room setup, still uses ultra wideband. A lot of this is the same. What's new is some of the smart home stuff. There's a feature called sound recognition that can monitor for smoke and carbon monoxide alarms and send an alert to your iPhone. It has a built-in temperature and humidity sensor that keeps tabs on your environment, and you can use that data to enable automations within the Home app. HomePod will play a confirmation tone to know that your Siri request was granted. It is also compatible with the new Matter smart home standard as well. And it's cheaper than it was before. It's $50 less. It's at $299. It's available for pre-order right now.
Nice. Did you order some pods, Sean?
Honestly, it is. I didn't really think about it for a second. I was never going to order it, but it was interesting to me that I just wear my AirPods all the time. Like, I don't have a need for a speaker. Like, my AirPods, I wish, like, screen time on my iPhone, there was some sort of stat of how much they're in my ears. It's a crazy amount when I'm just walking around my home doing anything. Every phone call I take, music, podcasts. To me, I tried that before. So I like to listen. I'm like Dan, I listen to podcasts when I fall asleep. I think a lot of people do that. And I've tried doing it with speakers. And what I actually end up doing is I put one HomePod in my ear. I put my head on the pillow without it, but I have to do that so I can kind of clearly and nicely hear it, because I just don't like speakers all that much. So I just would never use it.
Yeah. I think, Sean, you said you put one HomePod in your ear, which is what I'm picturing now.
I hope it's a HomePod Mini.
Very, very.
I kind of like the idea of like a Princess Leia. You put one on each ear and you get the buns going.
Ooh.
You just
I
a
like
walking party then.
I mean, maybe I just have had really crappy speakers historically. I mean, maybe these do sound really good. I also try and be. I do have a roommate in the house, so I do try to be respectful and not play anything too loudly. But I don't know. I mean, you've got a HomePod Mini. Does the HomePod Maxi do anything for you?
I don't think so. We also have like several Sonoses of like about this. Well, I guess I haven't seen the HomePod like next to something for scale, so I don't actually know how big it is. But I assume this is about the same size as like the Sonos one. We have a few of those. So like if those like die someday, maybe.
Well, I do know that you will actually be getting some of these new features on your existing HomePod Mini. The HomePod Mini already had the temperature and humidity sensor built into it. I believe, don't hold me to this, I believe the new software update will enable it on your device. So you will get those features on your existing AirPod.
Wow. I'm going to see if I can update that right now.
I don't know
think it's out yet.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I know sound recognition is not out yet as a feature. That's a future update. So TBD. But I know that was when it first came out and they did the breakdown of it, like the iFixit or whoever, and they're like, why is there a temperature and humidity sensor in here? They're not using it for anything, and they are now finally turning it on.
I think I was with you, Sean, a couple years ago when I lived by myself. The difference was I would just use my phone speaker to listen to a podcast because then it's always with me and it's relatively audible.
Right.
But I think the difference, the thing that I found these things really helpful for is, and I would be interested if they're better at picking up sound, because I do use them a lot to control the smart home. And before I didn't have a smart home because my home was too small to warrant having a smart home. But when you have people over, I think using them to play music is really cool. Now, if you have a Sonos, that probably works great. But I've heard from many people that the HomePod is like the best sounding speaker you can get of these, of the speakers that are also ladies in tubes. But two of them are like some of the best speakers you can get straight up, like all out. And I actually have like, there's a place, we have a floor that is AKA our living room and kitchen because we live in a townhouse where such things could go. But we're also moving at the end of March, so I'm not going to be committing myself to any electronics purchases right now.
Right.
Yeah, no, I will say Amazon's smart tubes sound terrible. They're awful. The audio is. I tried listening to music on those, and it's like the cheapest Bluetooth speaker sounds better than those. They sound super bad. So I agree with you there. Yeah, I actually, you kind of got me thinking for a second as someone who permanently lives alone. I have no experience with this, so I'm actually curious. It's a lifestyle question. Do you listen to podcasts on your speakers? And does that mean your significant other, do you listen to the same podcast? Do you share in that experience?
I don't do that anymore now that I live with someone. However, if Lena isn't here, I will listen to the podcast on the speakers. But to be honest, that's mostly for the novelty factor. And I don't know if I'm sure it sounds better than listening to it on my phone, but it's also slightly more of a pain in the ass. You got to go to the AirPlay thing and select the thing. It takes a couple seconds. And, yeah, it's mostly because it's cool. And then you get to sync it to the two HomePod minis. That's exciting.
Yeah. I do it sometimes. Just like I have a speaker, one Sonos in this room. And like sometimes I'll put it, like when I'm working, I'll put it on just in this room.
I was just curious because I was like, because I know some people listen to podcasts like as a couple, like they'll listen to them together when they're doing stuff. But I'm like, I've shared some podcasts I listen to, but there are also some where I'm like, I would never tell anyone I listen to these podcasts. Like, I would not. This is my little secret, and you people don't need to know what I listen to. Thank you.
Sure.
This week in The Bachelorette.
Worse. No, I don't. It's one of those. It's so, recommending music or a TV show is one thing. I feel like recommending a podcast is much more personal. A, because it's a bigger time investment, but also B, there's just so many and they're so specific. If I tell you like, oh, go watch Game of Thrones, it's like that's kind of a general recommendation anyone can get. But podcasts are so specific per person that it's like, and it's really funny because when people have found out like I do a podcast, do in quotes, they always are like, oh, is it like this one? Oh, is it like this one? Oh, is it like this one? And I'm like, A, I don't know what those are. And B, no, probably not. Those sound like real good podcasts. We don't do that.
Right. A different genre.
Like, oh, is it like NPR? And I'm like, yeah, it's just like NPR. It's exactly like NPR. All right. Why don't we move on to our picks, unless there's any other stories you want to talk about?
Can we talk about the school that can't turn off the lights quickly? I forgot.
Yes.
I saw this at the bottom and then I forgot. I forgot.
Wait.
Yeah, it is literally the town right next to me. They were our arch rivals on the debate team. That's the main reason I knew about it. Was in the local news here in Wilbraham. Minnechaug Regional High School. It's the only school in that town. It was. I just want to get the exact number here. It was built back in the early 2000s, 2012. It was built in 2000. One of the cost-saving measures the school board insisted on was a green lighting system run on software installed by a company called Fifth Light to control the lights in the building. The system was designed to save energy and thus money by automatically adjusting the lights as needed. However, in August of 2021, staffers at the school noticed that the lights were not dimming in the daytime and burning brightly throughout the night. It went into default, and the default position is for the lights to be on. They reached out to the original installer only to discover the company had changed hands several times. When they finally tracked down the current company, they basically said, we don't really know how to help you. So the lights were just permanently stuck on by the software that controlled them. They went out, got a quote to replace the entire system, was in excess of $1.2 million. So instead, they spent the last 2 years working with the company that eventually owned the other company, Reflex Lighting, and they ended up having to slowly, piece by piece, replace the system, including the server, the lighting control boards, and other hardware. Because of the pandemic, parts were slow to come in. The main server wasn't delivered until March of last year. And as of today, it still has not been fixed, and they are locked out of turning off their lights.
That's insane.
Yup.
There's no like master override where someone can just go like turn off the lights at night or something.
Well, that was one of the things the company said when they go through and make all these upgrades and changes. They're including a manual on-off switch as part of the program. Because they also looked into hiring a software consultant to see if they could just patch the system and override it. Apparently that wouldn't work. So I don't know what system this is, but it sounds insane.
It's like simultaneously well, it's just incredibly secure. Like you can't mess with it.
Yeah, it's like Pentagon level security on the high school lighting system. Apparently it's costing the town thousands of dollars a week because the lights are on all the time. Teachers have even resulted to unscrewing some of the light bulbs.
See, coming from New York City, and I haven't noticed this here in Seattle as much, but I'm not usually in the business district and at night. The lights in all of the skyscrapers are on all the time. And I always thought that was some sort of deliberate choice. And I would have thought that maybe even at a school, you might want the lights on all the time because then you can be, ensure that there's no one in there. But I've never gotten a satisfying explanation as to why is the Manhattan skyline so pretty at night? It's pretty. It shouldn't be though, right? Like, and then maybe I was like, maybe it doesn't actually cost that much, LEDs, but it sounds like it does. I don't get it.
I always assumed it was because there were cleaning crews at night that needed the lights on.
All night long?
Well, those skyscrapers are very dirty. No, I have no idea. Well, apparently it's not just that the lights are on at night. Apparently teachers, they can't dim the lights to do presentations.
Right.
So it's no matter how you slice it, it's a problem.
There's no more movie watching in class.
They have to get ceiling blinds so they can just pull like one of those what are those awnings called? What's that name brand awning for you get over your deck or something?
The sunsetter?
Yeah, get the indoor sunsetter.
I would just wear sunglasses to school every day. Start a protest.
It would be the coolest school ever. Imagine those kids showing up to the debate tournament.
Damn, the Minachog. And that every year at the big debate Model Congress event, they would all wear matching shirts. What a bunch of tools.
So lame.
Yeah, this is right down the road for me. I'll have to maybe drive by some night and see if I can look in the windows and check it out. I don't know.
I would really love to know more about why the technology of this. Like, why is it not possible?
Yeah, it definitely seems like the kind of problem a local school system is not equipped to handle.
Right. Amazing.
Absolutely crazy. So there you go. Your local Massachusetts beat. We don't just do national news, we do local news. But we are going to continue on here and talk about Les Picks. Some cool stuff we want to bring to the show and talk about. I'm going to go first today. I don't usually go first, but I'm going to go first today because I'm first on the list here. Guys, I want to talk about air quality. Colby, I think you picked Eve weather a couple weeks ago. Temperature, humidity, great things to know. But my concern is I live in a house with an incredibly old furnace. And I was genuinely concerned about the air quality in my home, not just from, a couple. I really wanted a device that could go nuts and test some hardcore stuff. And so I found the Yoo-Hoo Indoor Air Sensor 9-in-1 Smart Air Monitor. It measures a lot, not just temperature and humidity, but VOC, ozone, air pressure, nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, 9 different elements that would surprise you. For example, I learned, it was going around, I'm sure you guys saw the outrage over gas stoves. They're going to be banned because they pump a bunch of dangerous gases into your home. Well, I can confirm that's true because I put one in my kitchen and then I cooked with my stove and the levels were out of control of, I forget which, of nitrogen dioxide that was in my kitchen. So I know it works.
Nice.
but I put it in the basement, and the good news is my air quality is very good. All green. So, but it tracks it over time, day by day, puts it in the app. But this is the only one I found that was well reviewed and tracked this aggressive number of different air elements. So the Yoo-Hoo indoor air sensor. Check that out. Yeah.
I feel like this is one of those things where like I want to know all this stuff, but I also don't want to know because I don't think there's anything I can do about it.
Yeah, I agree. And the good news is, I think, because it's kind of got like the green, yellow, red. So I think even if you're in yellow, you're okay. I mean, again, this house is like weirdly dirty, not because I'm dirty, but just like I really genuinely thought there was something wrong with the air quality. The fact it was all green told me your air quality is probably okay. But that's the fun thing about trying it. And I will be honest, listen, it's not good to do. It's not good for the environment. It's not good for the economy. I am going to return it. I do not need to keep this for the long term. I bought it. I did the test. I am sending it back. It is too expensive for me to keep just for fun. But you can certainly do the same. And see how you do. By the way, have you guys ever done the water tests you can buy for your home? Or do you not want to know? Those are good too. Home Depot sells them. A lot of places sell them, and you just put your water in a vial and mail it off, and they'll tell you what's in your water.
No, there's a thing to bring with us on our house/apartment hunting.
And it's not that expensive. It's like, take a sample. I don't remember the exact price, but it was pretty reasonable for what you were getting. So something to think about. All right, Dan, you're next in the list here. What are you listening to?
Oh yeah, my go to sleep podcast is Revolutions, which is a history podcast about revolutions. And it, like the Ken Burns stuff, sometimes it's too interesting to go to sleep, but most of the time it's fine. The third season on the French Revolution is A, very long, and B, super, super good. It's some crazy shit, man. Lots of modern day parallels in the old French Revolution. And honestly, that was when it got too good. When I was listening to it and I was like, oh shit, like, is this happening again? Am I actually reading the the future here? But it's really good, relatively conversational, not too dry, but dry enough to go to sleep.
Cool.
Nice.
Very edutational.
Oh, and the most recent season is on the Haitian Revolution, which I didn't even know ever happened. And it actually intersects with the season 3 French Revolution thing. And so my fun fact about the Haitian Revolution is, did you know that there's a slave revolt in Haiti, and then France sent some like negotiators to be like, hey, like solve this thing. Like we need, because this was their most profitable colony. And the whole reason the French Revolution happened is because they didn't have any money. And then they came back to France and they said, hey, what if we had this compromise thing where, there's like a path to freedom, but then, for now the slaves are going to go back and work at the plantations. And then the, super revolutionary French Congress, whatever it was called at the time, is like, what if we just freed all the slaves instead? And they were like, okay, didn't think we were going to get that. And like, okay, done. Boom, stamp, next thing. And it was like, what? Like, what an insane period of history. And then suddenly there are like black legislators and like elected to that Congress and stuff in 17 whatever. It's crazy. Yeah, anyways, super interesting podcast.
Look at that. I always wondered why you were such a smart guy, Dan, and now I know your secret.
Yeah. Well, 5 minutes of a 30-minute episode at a time. Yeah.
Very cool. The Revolutions podcast. We'll have the link on the website. Colby, why don't you take us home? What do you got?
Nice. I feel like this was a thing that I always, I don't know, for whatever reason, I agonized over. Like, you read things online about sharpening your knives being hard, or like actual mechanical knife sharpeners being like bad for your knives or something So I never did it. And like one time, like ages ago, I bought like a sharpening stone, and it's like it's so annoying, and you can like mess up. Like, not like you can mess up, like you'll probably mess it up a few times. And like, with in best case, your knife is not sharp when you finish, and like worst case, you've actually screwed something up. So I finally, like, all of my knives were like pretty dull and have been dull for like 2 years. And I like sort of like Googled around to see if there was some place I could just bring them around here to get them sharpened. I didn't find anything, so I finally just purchased the wire cutter. Like, this is the knife sharpener you can get. And I got it. I did this in the way that Amazon always gets me now, where I'm like awake on Saturday morning Googling, and it's like, we can have this to you by 3 p.m. today. It's like, shit. So I purchased this knife sharpener. It came at 3 p.m. and I sharpened all of my knives in like 45 minutes. And it's great now. So I don't know what I was waiting for. I don't have fancy knives even, but now they're all sharp.
Well, you've made them fancy.
Right? Yeah. Super easy. It was really easy. I should have done it years ago. Totally worth it.
Cool.
Sharpen your knives for $100. $179, I guess.
Well, I like to read Amazon reviews once in a while. Here's a 1-star review from Angus Brow, who says, "My bad, but I ordered and plugged it in and it nearly caught fire. If selling to a 240 volt country, you might want to highlight this for dumb people like me." So not really a critical review of the product. It sounds like more of a him problem.
Yeah, that's a review of himself.
Review of himself.
Yeah. So anyway, that's great. Very cool. Yes, I have a less nice manual sharpener, but man, the difference a sharpened knife can make, you don't realize how dull it is until you really get in there. And you're right, it can make an old knife feel like new. So
yeah, it's great.
Good call. Chef's Choice, Trizer. Very cool. We'll have links to that and all the picks on the website. You can check it out at don'tpanic.io, where all the episode information is. Audio, video, the whole 9 yards. We'll have it there. You can also, of course, subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Look for the big red button with the video version on YouTube. And, of course, you can get a hold of us, don'tpanicshow@gmail.com, or tweet at us at don'tpanicshow for as long as Twitter is still a thing. Guys, I will quickly tease up for debate. I have to, because coming up, we got some really exciting stuff. No idea what this week's episode is going to be, but coming up in 2 weeks, we're kicking off our Super Bowl prop bets, our annual tradition, where Matt and I bet against each other on some wacky stuff happening in the Super Bowl. Last year, I won for the first time in like a zillion years. So I got to keep my streak up. We're going to talk about it before the game as well as after the game. It's one of our favorite things we do all year. You're going to want to check that out at upfordebate.tv. And not long after that, we'll have March Madness, which I already know what he's planning, and it's going to be wild. So you're not going to want to miss that. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get podcasts. But we're going to wrap it up here. That is the end of this episode. I hope everyone had as good of a time as we did, certainly. On behalf of Colby and Dan, I'm Sean. We appreciate you being here. We're going to see you next time for another great edition of Don't Panic.